Welcome to CyberWatch Finland studio. We have today's topic is China in the cyber world. What is an effect and geopolitics, etc. Welcome, Timo. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yes, thank you very much for the invitation. My name is Timo Rinne, and I'm a part of, or one member in the CyberWatch advisory network. I'm a freelance researcher and consultant in the fields of cybersecurity and security in a general level in different fields. Thank you very much for the invitation.
My name is Waltzer. I'm a chief analyst in CyberWatch Finland, following the cyber world events and analyzing the means and effects of and impacts of cyber events. Today we are talking about China in cyber world. How would you describe China's role in today's cyber world?
Yeah, China is a very powerful actor in this field, and where China is a very specific country comparing to, for example, Russia or India or United States, is that their kind of background and motivations to act is very, very much based on politics and ideology of Chinese politics, and China, as said, is very, very powerful actor in this field. I would characterize China's strategy in cybersecurity so that, for example, comparing to the United States, as the United States is very strong in offensive cybersecurity, but China is putting more resources today to kind of cyber espionage and not so much in offensive activities. So they both are very, very powerful actors, but they have a different strategies. So China is really a major player, and they have their own unique approach to cybersecurity in general.
Probably their cultural differences are pretty clear. On the Western side, we have the public media, very public, open information sharing culture. We don't, for example, try to hide mistakes that much, or at least the media will try to show them to everybody. Compared to China, that is totally opposite, trying to protect their leaders, and otherwise the media is very much controlled. And this is probably one reason why our Western situation picture, or the big picture, is more like US-based or US-written narrative, so to say.
Yeah, exactly. That's true. So China, as you said, is the culture for communication is quite closed. Any mistakes are not revealed so easily than in the Western world. Of course, the United States is dominating the discussion about China today, and what happens also in cybersecurity. Of course, there are some difficulties related to Chinese culture, and of course the language is one barrier as well. So there are very few people who can really understand Chinese culture and of course the language, and then kind of have a first-hand situational awareness what is really taking place in this community. China is interesting country in that sense as well, that it's competing with the United States mainly today, but they are a bit behind in technology development. But of course, as you said, the mistakes are not revealed so easily. So it has been admitted that they are kind of coming up to the same level in the United States, but they are still very vulnerable when it comes to cyber infrastructure, for example. So to have, as you said, the clear picture of situational awareness from China is very difficult for these reasons. You are right.
Yeah, a lot of hit coverage has been about this Chinese espionage group and Chinese cyber troops, whatever, or the hacker groups that are related to Chinese politics, and they're like as a proxy organizations. How do you see how do you see their actions are showing, for example, in Europe?
Yeah, of course, all the big states, they use proxies, to help the governmental cyber organizations, and China as well. And what we have recently seen is related to COVID-19. They have broken into some medicine research centers and things like this. But it happens on the opposite side as well. It is continuous leakage of information, which is done by the American proxies and hacker groups as well. So it happens all the time on both sides.
Yeah, the challenge is all the geopolitics and the economics of this global business and logistic chains. It is not that easy to kind of separate cyber world or cyber digital events or the attacks from the business and collaborations between organizations, even state level. But how do you see what is the future scenarios for this based on the current situation? How do you see how is this going to develop?
Yeah, it's as President Xi in China has set a goal to be the leading economic and technology power in the world by 2049, if I remember correctly. So it's pretty long time schedule there, but taking account that China is not yet in the level of the USA in this sense, so then it's probably a reasonable goal. And all these activities, we are talking about economical warfare, cyber competition or cyber warfare between China and the Western countries. All these activities are kind of supporting this goal to be the leading country in the world. And as we discussed in the beginning, China's motivations are very political and ideology based. So therefore, I could see that these kind of activities, when they happen, or take place, they serve the final goal to be the most powerful country in the world, and to spread their ideology to other regions of the world.
Yeah, probably the most obvious example of this is the Huawei case and the 5G technology. Yes. Compared to US is vice versa. They are trying to protect their sovereignty in the cyber world. Yeah. And that is one reason the 5G is now like the main event on that side.
That's a good point. And actually the United States and China have very powerful weapons in their hands, which are very different. So China is dominating in production of the technology components, yeah. And they can this way spread their technology globally around the world, and probably develop some backdoors here and there to serve their cyber espionage objectives. And on the other side, the United States is the leading operating system developer. Microsoft and everything, they are spread all over the world globally, and this is kind of a software weapon for them to do the same as China is doing. So definitely China is looking for sovereignty when it comes to the software and operating system side, and of course trying to set up companies like Huawei, the other ones who can then promote this hardware part in their strategy. You're right. Thank you.
Yeah, that's one of the main challenges there.
Exactly.
One actually pretty scary situation or scenario is that what does all this do the digital trust in the big picture? Because of if people or companies, Western world, or actually in China, cannot trust their technology, and now when we are globally using global services, using digital services more and more every day, and it is integrated in all society, all levels. And the challenge there is that if we lose the trust for the digital information, what effect can that have?
Well, that's kind of a good example of the dystopia that we could foresee. But I think it's the best way to kind of overcome these challenges is through legislation and standard development, so that security standards could kind of fight against these possible threats that you mentioned. Also, legislation is very important. We remember GDPR, which was okay. The privacy was a big concern earlier as well. But as soon as there was legislation putting very heavy sanctions on the companies who will break this legislation, then everybody kind of were a bit more sensitive, which was good for the privacy and security point of view. So it's always kind of it's a race between the trust to technology and then the other part. So,
do you see, or do you know any technical ways or solutions for this to help the privacy and the trust in the digital world?
Yeah, of course, security frameworks for auditing, for example, hardware components and also the software and operating systems, they are developing as well. So with development of these security frameworks, I believe that this race between the threats and the medicine can be achieved in the same level in the future. I hope so, at least.
So what do you think, what should organizations or private citizens do?
Well, private citizens, I would say that, for example, in Finland, communication by the governmental organizations like cyber centers and this kind of organizations is very open and very, I would say, practical tips and advices are given to the citizens. So this is an example of organizations who is doing a very good job. I mean, investigating potential threats and backdoors and everything from the technology. And when something comes up that the normal citizen should be aware, and the normal citizen is able to protect himself or herself, then they are announcing this kind of information publicly. So kind of awareness, raising the security awareness level. So kind of I would say that normal citizens should keep ears and eyes open and get all the information that is available. Neutral information about the threats, and then follow these practical advices that are given.
So citizens should be aware of this cyber risks and threats, but probably not be too scared not to do anything.
Yeah, exactly. So if there are some top 5 active actions how you can protect your mobile phone, take location services out and don't give too much information to social media and so on. That's pretty simple rules to follow. But when these kind of basic advices are implemented by the citizen, then it's not so, should not be so afraid to use digital services.
Okay. Thank you, Timo.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you.